India, that is Bharat, has recently received a surprising offer that has left some countries amazed and a few others worried. This is the same offer once given to Ukraine, because of which today there is a conflict between Russia and Ukraine. It was a bait offered by Western nations to Ukraine. Now the same bait is being offered to India. As you know, NATO is the most powerful military alliance in the world. Today, NATO wants to join forces with India. American diplomat and United States permanent representative to NATO, Julian Smith, has said, if India wants, NATO's doors are open. It's important to note that NATO is giving this offer to India at a time when Finland became the newest member of NATO. On April 4th, Finland officially became the newest member of NATO, making it a 31-nation alliance. Now the question is whether or not India should accept this offer from NATO. There are both pros and cons. I'll state them one by one. On the left hand, I'll put arguments for the motion, and on the right hand, I'll put arguments against the motion. Now, if India accepts the offer and becomes a member of NATO, then it will provide India with a protective shield against its enemies. According to Article 5 of the NATO Treaty, if an external country attacks a NATO member, it will be considered an attack on all member countries, and all countries will have to mandatorily assist and come to each other's aid. For example, if China ever tries to attack India, then it will be considered an attack on all 31 NATO member countries. On the other hand, if we look at the consequences, if India becomes a member of NATO, then it will damage India's strong relationship with Russia. India and Russia's friendship can be seen as two trees that are planted side by side. Their roots have intertwined over time, growing taller and stronger together, providing shade and shelter for each other and weathering any storms that have come their way. Furthermore, India still depends heavily on Russian military equipment. Therefore, if India becomes a member of NATO, Russia could feel betrayed. Another argument is that the United States is extending this offer to India simply because it wants to play India against China, similar to what they did to Ukraine, and it is said that this is the main reason that is driving this proposal. Now, it is a fact that China has been frequently engaging in small-scale border disputes with India. But you need to understand a very important point. While China can create border disputes, however, China does not have the guts as well as the will to launch a full-fledged military attack on India. I have a video, in fact I have an entire playlist on China, where I have explained why China cannot afford to have a war with India. I'll put the link of that video in the top right corner. So, China's small-time border disputes with India are not at all a big concern for India. If ever there will be a battle between India and China, it will happen in the bone-chilling high-altitude mountains of the Himalayas. And needless to say, the Indian Army fully controls the highest battlefield in the world, Siachen Glacier. So, India does not have the compulsion to join NATO because of Chinese threats. Now, it is possible that Western nations have a strategy to weaken China and are using India as a means to achieve their goal.
First time ever in a NATO strategic concept, the one that we just released, we now have China mentioned as a strategic challenge, and this is a big step forward for the NATO alliance. We obviously have spent most of our time in recent months focused on Russia and Russia's war in Ukraine.
This claim may or may not be accurate. But India's current diplomatic and military strength is capable enough to confront any form of danger, whether it is from neighboring countries or the far existing Western powers. Now, if India decides to become a member of NATO, then it can create a huge problem for India. Earlier, I mentioned Article 5 of the NATO Treaty. If an external country attacks a NATO member, it will be considered an attack on all member countries, and all countries will have to mandatorily assist and come to each other's aid. Now, this particular clause will drag India into all the conflicts and disputes happening in the world that are directly as well as indirectly initiated by the United States or any other 31 NATO countries, which may not be necessarily beneficial for India. So, the bottom line is that India should not blindly trust the United States and Western nations. Just look at the full form of NATO. It is North Atlantic Treaty Organization. India is not located in the North Atlantic region, which is the area covered by NATO's Collective Defense Clause. Moreover, even though countries like Australia, New Zealand, Japan and South Korea are allies of the United States, but they are not part of NATO. Therefore, there is a sense of doubt when we observe such an invitation being extended to India. Furthermore, even if someone says that it is true that joining NATO will give India access to advanced military technology and weapons, however, it should be noted that membership in an alliance does not automatically mean that everything will be provided free of cost. Payments will be required and you will have to pay. And then there will also be restrictions on when and how to use the technology, which will result in dependency. Ultimately, these advanced military gadgets may end up being a tools of control rather than advantages. Plus, this offer has the potential to create tensions and put India in a risky position with both Russia and China. Now, after doing a cost and benefit analysis, you can see that the potential negative outcomes of India accepting this offer outweigh the possible benefits, and it would harm India's relationships with other countries. While it is good to know that India has built its reputation to a level where powerful countries now see the requirement of including India in their close circle, nevertheless, it is important to remember that the concept of being a self-governing nation, a sovereign nation, is more than just a title. It must be perceived, experienced and demonstrated. Hence, this offer is nothing but a trap to lure India. I hope you found this video informative. Thank you for watching it.